So what we're going to look at today are still our graphing these inequalities, but they're going to be called compound inequalities. Okay, so a compound inequality is like a compound word. Do you remember what a compound word is? What's a compound word?
Wasn't it like two words that are pressed into like one?
Two words in one, yeah, like playground. Playground is one word, but play and ground. Okay, so a compound inequality is two inequalities in one problem. Okay, so there's two different types of compound inequalities. One compound inequality will have either a symbol or the word and the other compound inequality will have the word or. Okay, so we're going to look at some and ones first. So our first one is an and inequality. When I have an and inequality, it means the intersections of the two graphs. In other words, the solution set must fit both inequalities. So for example, can I have a number that is greater than 2 and less than 7? So are there any numbers greater than 2 and less than 7?
No.
Yeah.
Someone give me a number that's greater than 2 and less than 7.
5.
5, yeah. Two people just said 5. Exactly. So that is a compound inequality that works. However, can I be greater than 2 and less than 0? No, right? Greater than 2 would be things like 3, 4, 5. Those are not less than 0. Okay? So a compound inequality with the word and means that whatever the statement is, you have to have a number that fits both of those statements. Otherwise, you'd have no solution. Okay? So if we look at the first examples, what's given to you is a graph, and we have to write the compound inequality. Okay? When we have and statements, the word and is going to be in our head, but the way we write it just has symbols. So I'm going to do the first one for you. Okay? Hold on one second. Do you not have a laptop today? Okay. I'll come over and work with you in a little bit. All right. So if I look at the first one, what we're going to have is this is an and statement because it's an intersection. Those, the line is being connected. From where those two dots are, we're connecting. So what we're going to have is we're going to write down our two numbers that we have. Would everybody agree that the two numbers that are plotted are -5? I'm going to leave some space, and -1. Would everybody agree with that? That's where the circles are. Now, notice all the space I left, because in there, we're going to have two symbols and our variable. So I'm going to put our variable right in our middle. You can use whatever variable you want. We just use X often. Okay? So what we're going to have here now is we need to think about what is this saying. Is this saying X is greater than, less than, etc.? Let's start with just answering it for -1. That line is highlighting points what? Greater than or less than -1? Less than, exactly, right? These highlighted points here, I'm just highlighting it in blue so you can see, right? Those points that are the parts on the line that are highlighted are going to be to the left of -1, which is less than. So I'm going to put a less than symbol comparing it to -1. You should all be looking at your screen. Now, I'm not just going to do less than, though, because that's a closed circle. So I need to do less than or equal to. Now, tell me about comparing it to -5. What parts are highlighted? The parts to the left, which is less than, or the parts to the right, which is greater than?
Parts to the right.
Right. Now, here's the tricky part. Our X compared to the -5 is not on our normal side. So the symbol I'm going to write may look like a less than symbol to you. However, it's really a greater than, because if I compare it to the variable, okay, if I hide, I can't actually use my hand and you can see, but if I like just focus on, don't box this in, but just for my purposes for teaching you, just analyze that statement right there. Okay. It's opening up to X, which means the alligator eats the bigger thing. So it's saying X is bigger than -5. X is greater than. Whereas if I boxed in the first part we did, it's pointing to X, so it's saying X is less than. Okay, so that's how we write compound inequalities with our ands, when the line is connecting and we create a segment. So let's do number 2, and then I'll have you try number 3. So for number 2, we're just going to take those points again. The circles are at -2. I'll leave some space, and 7. I'll put my variable in the middle. Now you need to come up with those inequality symbols. Like I said, I like to start with the one on the right. So compared to that 7, are these points that the line is on, are those points less than 7 or greater than 7? This blue part that I'm highlighting, are those less than 7 or greater than? Less than, exactly. Now, because it's a closed circle on 7, we're going to have less than or equals to, because it can include 7. For -2, the values highlighted are to the right. They're greater than. So remember, it's saying X is greater than. So I want to open to X because X is the bigger one. And I'm simply going to leave it like that because we have an open circle, so no line underneath. Okay, you try number 3, and if you feel like you can put it into the chat, try that too, the private chat. Go for it. Okay, do number 3.
Then I'm highlighting things to the right of -5, so X has to be greater than or equal to -5. So that's our example for the first one. So then you try 2 and 3, and I'll come back during crossword times and sort of check in. Okay.
Let's see, I see a couple things here into the chat. Great. Max, Tim, Dom, great. All looks good. Eva, nice. Good, Moses. Okay, so if we look at this one, good job, Victoria. So everyone who has submitted did a great job. Our 2 points are 0 and 5. I put my variable in between, and we are less than 5, but greater than 0. And they're open circles, so that's why there's no lines underneath. Any questions? Pause periodically. If you have any questions, chime in. All right, so number 4. Oops. Did your graph get cut off like mine?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so let's just draw one. So everyone for number 4, let's just draw a number line together. So we'll draw one. I see the numbers are 3 and -2, so I'm going to put 0 like right in the middle. And let's do up to 5 on both sides. Okay. So just do that first. That's just graphing. That's just the basic number line. All right. Once you have that basic number line down, we're actually going to graph these. Now I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this, okay? The first way I'm going to use 2 different colors. I'm going to use this red color to represent the first part they're showing me. And then I'm going to use this green color to represent the second part, okay? So if I look at that first part, it's saying, now you can just watch first. Just watch on the screen and then you can copy stuff. The first part is saying x is less than 3. That's what we did yesterday. So that's where we had like an open circle. Again, just watch. Don't write anything. Okay? I had an open circle on 3 and it said go to the left. That's what we did yesterday. Then I'm going to use this green one to do x is greater than or equal to -2. So that would be a closed circle. And then it would be saying greater than means go to the right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at, because this is an and statement, so now I'm going to use pink here. Because this is an and statement, we want to look at the overlap. Where is that red and that green overlapping? So my final answer is going to be this pink. Closed circle on -2, open circle on 3. The overlap of the red and the green is in between those 2 points.
So -2 to 3.
Yes, so pink is what the graph should look like. So notice how in the directions on for it says graph the solution, x is less than 3 and greater than -2, and highlight your final graph. So that highlight, I just used the pink, okay? If this arrow right here, right, we don't want it to go on and on forever because, again, it's an and statement means I have to be between those 2. If you highlighted past -2 and you highlighted -4, well, there are no numbers that are fit. Like -4 does not fit the fact of being less than 3 and greater than -2. But everything in the pink fits both cases. Okay? So you can copy the pink down if you haven't already done so.
Wait, so like I've done the graph, but we don't like write equations kind of like to write.
It just said to graph, right? Yep. But if you like combining these, what this is really saying is is that what you're asking me, kind of?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that pink represents. Okay, let's look at 5, which there's a graph there, but I know it's a little crazy. So it says graph the solution of this, okay? So this is what we want to graph. Now, if you need to do 2 pieces like I did and then highlight, you can, or you can just jump right on it. So I sometimes just jump right to it, and it's saying my 2 points should be at -1 and 6, okay? Now tell me, should I have an open circle at -1 or a closed at -1?
You should have an open.
Open circle, because there's no line underneath, right? It just is. So I'm going to have an open circle at -1. So you can go ahead and plot that. You can do what I'm doing in pink. Can you guys see pink okay on the screen? Okay. So we're on number 5. Next page. You guys got to stay with me. The fact that I'm starting it and then people flip 3 minutes later. Where are you? La La Land? Come on. So we have -1 open circle. Our other point will be at 6. Open or closed circle there? Open. Good. Okay. So there's my 2 dots. Now, because this is a compound combined inequality like this, it's saying, like, let's just don't actually cover this up with what I'm doing in red right now. But if I was to hide this and I just focused on this part, what is that saying? X is What did I just box in red?
X is 6.
X is less than. So where would that pink arrow go from that 6? Would it go to the left or to the right? To the left, exactly. So we're going to start that arrow going to the left. But because it's a compound inequality, now I'll get rid of the red. It's saying, but hold up, don't go on forever, right? It has to also be greater than -1. So I have to stop. And there's my answer. Okay, so these compound ones that are and statements, or the word and isn't there and it means and, means you'll always create a segment. So for number 6, it's an and statement. So you'll create that segment. Now let's see what happens. Okay, because sometimes we have special cases. So I'm going to do this one in 2 pieces. I'm going to use red first, and then I'll use green. So if I use the red first, it's saying I'm greater than 1. That means an open circle on 1, and which direction? To the right. Okay, so there's my first piece. This is not my final answer. These are just piece by piece right now. We got to pay attention and do work. Otherwise, we're not going to know what's going on. Now we do green. Green is saying less than or equal to -3. So I'm going to have a closed circle on -3. And what is that saying to do? Go to the right or to the left? Greater than or equal. Going to the right as well, because it says greater than or equal to. So does this look like the graphs we have been getting? Are they connecting here? They're both going in the same direction. So remember, these and graphs are where they overlap. So where do you see green and red? And I'm going to use pink to highlight that. Do you see green and red right here where I just put an arrow? No. How about here?
No.
How about there? Yes. So pink is going to be my answer. I start with this open circle, and all along right here, there's green and red overlapped. Here, there's green and red overlapped. And everywhere to the right, there is green and red overlapped. So this is a special case. Pink is my final answer, remember? And it's not a typical and statement where we connect. In this case, we just picked one of them. But again, ands mean both have to be true. So if you highlighted where -1 is, sure, that fits the green one. I'm greater than -3, but you're not also greater than 1 at that time. But everything in pink will be greater than 1 and greater than -3.
So our final graph should have an arrow on one of red.
Your final graph should be what I have in pink. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I just don't have multiple colors.
Oh, gotcha. Just if you don't have multiple colors, there's 2 things. See how like my green and red I put above, and then the pink one I actually put on the number line. If you want to do it that way, so like your sort of rough drafts are up above, and then your final is nice and bolded on the number line, that works. Okay? So again, 90% of the time, you're going to have and graphs that look like a segment connecting. Okay? Like all of these above. Occasionally, there will be this special case where it doesn't do that. Now, what if my thing said, like I said earlier, X is greater than, is everyone listening? This is not on the paper, so just listen. If X is greater than 10 and X is less than 0, what numbers are greater than 10 and less than 0? There are none. So what would your graph look like? Trick question.
0.
Nothing. Exactly. You'd leave the graph completely blank. You wouldn't even plot 0. That's a good point there. Nothing. Okay? There's no answers to that, so the graph is completely blank. Okay? All right, let's take a look at our OR statements. Okay? So this is the other one. So our ands usually connect. Now our OR statements, if you take a look at these images on 7 and 8, are going to not connect at all. They're going to go in opposite directions. So for our first example, okay, we're going to actually, these are a little easier to write. We're literally going to take the first one right here. So I'm just going to do this one as blue, okay? This is saying I have my X. What is this one saying here? What's the number? It's at -3. Is it saying I'm greater than or less than?
It's saying it's less than.
Less than. So I have X is less than -3. Open circle, so it's just a less than, not a less than or equal to. Because the graph is going in opposite directions, this is an OR graph. So now I write the word OR. And now I write the inequality for the second piece. Okay? So that second piece is now going to be this part. What is that part saying? It's saying X is less than or greater than? Greater than what number? 1. And there you have it. So these are a little easier in my opinion. It's just like yesterday's, but putting the word OR in between them because there's 2 different graphs. Let's do 8. We do the first piece, which is starting at -2 and going to the left. So that's saying X is less than, but since it's a closed circle, it's less than or equal to -2. Or, because those pieces are going in opposite directions, X is, the other one is at 4, and I'm greater than 4. Open circle, so no line. All right, in the chat, guys.
9 kind of cuts off of it. Should you just like squeeze it between 9 and 10?
You can just write it up above. Yeah. In the chat, tell me what you would do for number 9. Okay, in the private chat, go ahead. Tell me what you would do for number 9. So it's those 2 pieces. So you're going to have 2 inequalities with the word OR in between them.
You can't do an underline on the computer.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry about the underlines. I'll clarify that. But if you're trying to do an underline, no worries on the chat. But make sure you have it on your paper.
So we're gonna send you a private message of number 9.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody have an answer? Maybe it's there, but they're not showing. Oh, they're all popping up. Sorry, it wasn't showing. Okay, so many of these are correct. Let's actually take a look at the correct answer. So our first piece, I'll just write it right above. We have an open circle on -5, and we're going to the left. So that's saying X is less than -5. No line underneath because it's an open circle. Then we have our word OR, because there's 2 pieces. And we're going to do the one on the right, which is X is greater than or equal to. So just make sure, I know some people actually put a little line and then the symbol, great. Others of you just make sure that you have that. And that circle is on 1. So there's number 9. Any questions?
How do you write the final answer for number 10?
Oh, we're not on there yet. Hold on. Alrighty. So I just want a quick look ahead here because the rest is practicing. Good. Okay. So we're going to do 10, 11, and 12 before we head to lunch. And then when we come back from lunch, I'll have you guys do practicing. Okay. So for 10, they're giving you the inequality you have to graph. So these ones are a little easier. If we look at number 10, I'm just going to first plot the part I'm underlining, which says x is less than -5. That means I go to -5 and I put an open circle there. And less than means to go to the left. So there is the first piece. Again, if you like to make the line go a little above the area of the number line, feel free to do that. But now I need to graph the second piece. So the second piece says I'm greater than 3. So I go to where 3 is, open circle, and greater than means to go to the right. Remember, you don't need to make the lines crazy long, but just long enough. One last thing before we move on to the next one is some people who can't print out these things, when you're doing these, what's really important, so just look at the gray I'm about to write, otherwise you can ignore me. What's really important is that you have like 0 and that you've put the key points, -5 and like 3, and then your lines. If it's taking you a long time to put like all these from -10 to 10 on a number line, again, make sure you just at least have the key points. Okay. Alrighty, let's look at number 11. So number 11 says, graph the solution. X is less than 8. So let's take a look. Less than 8 would be over here and going to the left. And then we have less than 1, another open circle and going to the left. Does this look like the typical OR graphs we've been seeing? No, OR graphs have been going in opposite directions. Here's the deal with OR graphs. We don't look at the overlap for ORs. ANDs we did. ORs, we look at the entire thing because you can be one or the other. So in this case, I'll highlight with pink, ORs are less restrictive. We're not looking at the intersection. We're looking at the entire thing. So it starts all the way over here and goes on and on forever. So pink is what my final answer should be.